Hey guys, Aaron Dorr here with Wyoming Gun Owners. The 2024 session is almost here, and this year it's going to be what's called a budget session. And that means three things for you and me. Number one, a budget session is very short. It'll probably last approximately 20-ish working days here in Cheyenne. Number two, it means that supposedly, heavy sarcasm intended, supposedly the only thing they're going to work on is the budget. That is, in fact, not the case. In years past, we have seen major expansions, and we've seen real threats against our gun rights in these budget sessions. In fact, we passed stand your ground law, as our longtime WYGO members will know, in the 2018 budget session. So if your lawmakers tell you, well, I can't do this or I can't do that, it's a budget session, that is, in fact, not the case. Don't fall for that. And number three, and perhaps most interesting of all, any bill that moves forward in the budget session process needs to have a 2/3 majority vote on its introduction to be referred to a committee. What does that mean to you and me? It means that when WYGO files our legislation for this 2024 session, every single legislator in the building will be on the record for or against our bill this session. And folks, the legislature hates being put on the record for and against a gun bill. They hate it. So we love a budget session for that purpose, because don't forget, the primaries are not that far away. It's in August, and it's going to be February here very, very shortly. Guys, a big opportunity for us. So that being said, what are we working on this session? Guys, it's going to be great. We're going to try to ban red flag gun seizures altogether here in Wyoming. Everyone knows what a red flag law is, at least at a conceptual standpoint. They allow somebody who has not been convicted of a crime to have his or her firearms seized by a court order before never having been convicted of anything. It is the end of due process. It shreds the idea that we're innocent until proven guilty. And what makes them so damn dangerous is that Republicans, rhino Republicans all across the country, are backing versions of red flag gun seizures. You had last year, we had the governor in Tennessee called for a special session to pass red flag laws. Indiana has passed red flag laws. The former governor, a recently retired governor in Arkansas, called for red flag gun seizures. And let's not forget, at the federal level, the United States Congress passed Biden's federal red flag funding bill 2 years ago, and that gave the DOJ $750 million to use to bribe states into passing red flag laws. In fact, we've already received the first payment of that money here in Wyoming. $645,000 was received by the state from that fund. And so that makes red flag laws very dangerous. It has Republican support, and it has Joe Biden's quote unquote free money. So we have always beat these back in years past. That's not the question right now. The question is, can we go beyond simply stopping forms of red flag gun seizures? In fact, can we ban them here in Wyoming? That is our goal. The bill is actually pretty simple. It defines a red flag gun seizure as being a seizure order that takes away firearms from somebody before they've been convicted in a court of law for a violent felony crime. Let's kind of break that down for a moment. First of all, there has to be a conviction, right? There has to be a conviction for a crime. The idea of losing your firearms, having them taken from you, having not committed a crime and been convicted of it, is totally un-American. So number one, there has to be a conviction. Number two, has to be for a felony. And number three, it has to be for a violent felony. I'm not sure where every single of our members stand, but I know that the vast majority of WYGO members agree that it is not okay to take away someone's firearms for the rest of their life for a non-violent crime that was committed 20, 30 years ago. What does that mean? Well, if a single mom in Cheyenne steals milk from a grocery store enough times, she'll get a felony conviction. That's the way it works. If somebody embezzles money from the local Boy Scout troop, they're going to get a felony conviction. I'm not excusing the behavior. What I'm saying is there's a huge difference between that behavior and a guy who rapes and kills somebody here in Wyoming. There's a huge gap between nonviolent, paperwork felonies or nonviolent crimes versus somebody who commits an act of violent physical aggression against somebody else. So we're clarifying you have to have a conviction. It has to be for a felony, and it has to be for a violent felony crime. If someone's convicted of that, they shouldn't have firearms. Totally fine with that. But they have to be convicted of it first. So we say if you haven't had that conviction, you cannot have your firearms confiscated by the courts. That's what it says. But it goes beyond that, because we all know how this works in real life. You can pass this bill, but if there's not some sort of a mechanism to have teeth in it, it will be ignored by certain jurisdictions here in the state. Cheyenne will probably ignore it. Casper will ignore it. You pick a bigger town, they're going to ignore it, especially out in Jackson Hole area. They're going to ignore all this kind of stuff because they believe they are a power unto themselves. And so what we have in here are civil penalties. As you guys may remember, this is one of our major features of our SEPA law we worked on several years ago. And the idea here is very simple. If we don't have penalties, number one, these cities will ignore it. And number two, if the penalties require the Attorney General to intervene, as is often the case in other versions of these concepts in different states, what does that mean? It means that Bridget Hill, who WYGO dragged into federal circuit court and kicked her backside because of her actions against Wyoming gun owners, it means that this appointed establishment hack Attorney General will be the one that we go to for protection. Guess what? She's not going to do it. She's just not going to do it. And so the idea of expecting the government, in this case, the Attorney General's office, for example, to protect us from a different branch of government trying to enforce a red flag seizure order is preposterous. Instead, civil penalties is the way we're going to move with this. And what that means simply is that if a department, if a department violates this and enforces a red flag gun seizure law against you in defiance of state law, you could sue that department in civil court for damages. We're not suing individual cops. We're not going after individual officers, but the department and the agencies that violate this law must be held accountable, especially if they willfully, knowingly violated state law to carry out these red flag gun seizure laws. Some people have asked in the past, have other states done something like this so far? Oklahoma has a version of this on the books. It's not nearly as comprehensive, and there are no teeth to their law. And frankly, the lawmakers in Oklahoma have expressed regret to us when we talk to them, because they said without having penalties, there's really no point in us having done this. And we agree, which is why our version will certainly have penalties. So is it somewhat unprecedented? Yes. Is that a problem? No. This is, as we're always told, the most pro-gun legislature in America, and it's high time that they prove that. We have not seen much action out of this legislature when it comes to gun rights in a long time. We passed HB 116, what was that, 2 years ago, that dealt with expanding constitutional carry. We, of course, had the sham version of SEPA, which did nothing in 2022. They've done next to nothing, and guess what? It's an election season. And guess what? Despite the best efforts of former Secretary of State Ed Buchanan, despite the best efforts of the Chamber of Commerce here in Cheyenne, who used to be chaired by State Senator Tara Nethercott, despite the best efforts of AG Bridget Hill, when they tried to muzzle WYGO because of our effectiveness in the primaries, we sued and we won twice. So, with the 2024 primaries on the horizon, WYGO is eager to get a vote on this bill to see which legislators will vote to uphold our gun rights and which ones will not. But guys, it comes down to the pressure we all put on them. And so take a moment, hit the link beneath or above this video. Make sure you send a message to your state senator and your state rep that you expect them to stand up and vote for freedom, to vote for due process, to vote for the Second Amendment this upcoming session when our bill is filed to ban red flag gun seizures here in Wyoming. Guys, it's going to be a great year. It's going to be a great session. It's going to be a great election season. We're looking forward to them all. Take action. Get involved in the fight, guys. Go to joinwygo.com to get more involved. And guys, stay free.